Hello and welcome to Breaking Bread with Rivaj Maharaj, where nothing is off the table. For today's episode, I wanted to talk about the breaking news coming in from the Netherlands regarding an explosion at a Jewish school in Amsterdam. So without further ado, let's get into it. There's been reports coming out of an explosion on early Saturday morning at a Jewish school for young kids in Amsterdam. And it's been linked to a terrorist attack.
We weten niet precies wat de context is, wat de motieven zijn. Wat ik wel kan zeggen, is dat het onacceptabel is wat hier vannacht is gebeurd. Er is een explosief bij een muur afgegaan en politie en brandweer waren er bijna onmiddellijk bij en hebben verdere problemen kunnen voorkomen. Dat neemt niet weg dat het een aanslag bij een school is en bedoeld om kinderen en hun ouders angst aan te jagen.
Het is een poging om de Joodse gemeenschap te intimideren, om angst te zaaien en terreur te zaaien. En dat is een enorme laffe daad.
Het is gewoon niet oké dat dit moet gebeuren. Dit is de school bij jou om de hoek. Het hoort gewoon een veilige plek te zijn voor kinderen en families überhaupt. En dat er zoveel haat is naar een bepaalde groep mensen, dat is gewoon, dat doet gewoon pijn.
Ik heb 5 dochters in deze school gehad. En ik vraag mezelf, waar is de overheid? Waar is de veiligheid? Maar we hebben heel goede marechaussee in deze land. Het doet echt het best voor ons. Maar ik loop nu met kogelvestiging. Zie, ik durf niet zo naar synagoge door de spanning, hè.
Ja.
And I suppose that, those supporting the anti-Israel narrative will say, well, what do you expect? Look at what's going on in Palestine. Look at what the Israelis are doing in Iran, and the usual conspiratorial stories about, Jews and how bad they are, how they control the money supply and, drink kids' bloods and, all the usual nonsense that's being spouted about the Jewish people. However, there's something that has always baffled me. So, regarding the Palestinian issue, Hamas have, in their charter, Hamas have claimed that, the state of Israel basically, I'm paraphrasing here, but should not exist. And then you go on to see these attacks. Now, you have people that come out and say that Judaism does not equal Zionism and Zionism does not equal Judaism. And, I agree with that. I agree that you can be a Zionist and not be a practicing Jew, or not be a Jew altogether, or you can be a Jew and not be a Zionist. Because the two don't necessarily go together. Judaism is a religion and Zionism is basically, believing that the Jews have a right to a sovereign land and that, the Jews have the right to self-determination. Now, I can see how the two ideologies get conflated. I can also see how the two can be separated. But in this entire scenario, the thing that confuses me the most is that when people primarily on the left say that they are not against the Jews, but that they are against the Zionists, then subsequently go and either perpetrate or come out in defense of acts committed against Jews. Because right at the beginning, if you say that Judaism does not equal Zionism and Zionism does not equal Judaism, then you would agree that targeting a Hanukkah festival in Bondi in Australia, your odds of killing more Jews than Zionists are greater simply because the festival is honoring Judaism and not Zionism. So if I were an anti-Zionist, but I was able to draw a distinction between a Jew and a Zionist, and hypothetically, if I wanted to commit an act of egregious violence against a Zionist, I would then go out of my way to make sure that I do not involve Jews as collateral damage in my attack. Hence, I would not attack a Purim festival, I would not attack a Hanukkah festival, I would not attack a Rosh Hashanah festival, simply because I know that the propensity for endangering the lives of Jews who I claim I am not targeting are going to be great, simply because they are Jewish festivals attended by Jews. Jews from all spectrum, Jews that support Israel, Jews that don't support Israel, Jews that are Zionists, Jews that are not Zionist. But if my target is a Zionist, then I would certainly not target a Jewish festival, or a Jewish synagogue, or a Jewish preschool, because the chances of hurting innocent Jews is far greater. So I've never quite understood the theory when you have these people go out and say, oh, we are not targeting the Jews, we are only targeting the Zionists, but then go and target a synagogue or a Hanukkah festival and then try and justify it by saying they're targeting Zionists. For me, that's a load of bullshit. That is nonsense. That is unacceptable. That is anti-Semitism hidden and cloaked under the guise of Zionism. You hate a Zionist, that's fine. Don't take it out on the Jews, because all Jews are not Zionists. And by the way, a Zionist is not necessarily a Jew. You can have Christian Zionists, you can have Muslim Zionists, you can have Zionists from every corner of the globe. You probably even have Martian Zionists. My point that I'm trying to make is that when you want to target Zionism and you go out and actively target Jewish areas, Jewish institutions, Jewish festivals, I don't know who you think you're fooling when you come out then playing the victim card and saying, oh, but we're targeting Zionists. Because you must think that the people are absolutely uneducated and stupid. If you want to target a Zionist, then the people you should be targeting are people that are Zionist supporters, that are Zionists, not Jews. But you find overwhelming amounts of Jewish lives being lost simply because people go out there saying they are killing or they are injuring or they are out to harm Zionists because of the Zionist model. You cannot go and hide under this cover. It just doesn't make sense. Do not conflate the two. If you're an anti-Semite, come out and be bold enough to say, listen, I'm an anti-Semite. People will probably look at you differently. Rather than coming out and being cowardly about it, killing innocent Jews, targeting innocent Jews, and then saying, oh, I'm targeting Zionists. You're a bloody moron, man. And you think that the rest of society is equally as stupid. So when I look at this attack in the Netherlands, when I look at these attacks in Belgium, it baffles me. It baffles me because if you're upset with the state of Israel is made up of Christians, it's made up of Druze, it's made up of Jews, it's made up of Muslims. But you overwhelmingly target Jews. Now tell me, any rational person, any rational thinking person will draw an inference from this saying that these attacks are deliberate, they are anti-Semitic, and they are designed to inflict maximum pain on the Jewish community, on the Jewish religion, rather than actively going out and targeting those Zionists. Because you can find Zionists everywhere. You can find Zionists everywhere. The Bible Belt in the United States is full of Zionists, Christian Zionists. You don't see targeted attacks against Israel occurring in the Bible Belt in the United States. So, I feel that it is my duty to make this video because I am really sick and tired and fed up of listening to the hogwash that keeps coming out about Zionism and how Zionism is different from Judaism. Yes, it is. But when you perpetrate these actions against Jews and pose it under a disguise in the name of targeting Zionists, at some point the penny has to drop, man. The penny has to drop. Because if the overwhelming victims of these attacks are Jews, then how is it that you're targeting Zionists? I just don't understand. This tight security at Jewish schools. This article goes on to say explosion damages Jewish school in Amsterdam. Tight security at Jewish schools and institutions has been strengthened even more following attacks in recent days on synagogues in Rotterdam and Liege, Belgium. An explosion has damaged a Jewish school in Amsterdam, according to Dutch officials. The city's mayor, Femke Halsema, said she believed the blast was a deliberate attack against the Jewish community. The incident happened early on Saturday and police and fire services responded quickly. Damage to the school in a residential neighborhood on the south side of Amsterdam was limited, and no injuries have been reported. Police are investigating camera footage appearing to show the person who detonated the explosive. This is a cowardly act of aggression against the Jewish community, Mrs. Halsema said. Jewish people in Amsterdam are increasingly confronted with anti-Semitism. This is unacceptable. Dutch Prime Minister Rob Jetten called the attack in Amsterdam horrible and said it understandably caused fear and anger in the Jewish community. The safety of Jewish institutions has our full attention, he said in a post on X. There was also an attack on a synagogue in West Bloomfield near Detroit in Michigan on Thursday, where a Lebanese-born U.S. citizen allegedly rammed his car into the building. Authorities said the attacker, who was armed with a rifle, was fatally shot at Temple, Israel. Fears about now here it comes. Fears about possible attacks against Jewish communities around the world have increased following U.S.-Israeli airstrikes on Iran and a subsequent military response from Tehran. So, that last snippet that I read just goes to illustrate my point. The Israelis are attacking Iran. The Israelis are attacking Lebanon, right? The Israeli state is being held accountable and is being said to be a Zionist entity. Okay? Now let's look at this logically. So this Zionist entity that everybody is up in anger against and is, upset about and is picking a fight with, right? And is using it as moral justification for everything wrong in the world. It's this Zionist Israeli state. Okay? Now explain to me how the Israeli state, which is a Zionist entity, now justifies targeting a synagogue, which is a Jewish place of worship. Let's get things clear here. If Zionism and Judaism are two separate entities, are two separate ideologies, then if I am angry with a Zionist, it would follow that I would target Zionist institutions. I wouldn't go out and target Jewish institutions unless I believe that Zionism and Judaism are the same thing. Unless I'm anti-Semitic and I'm using the ploy of Zionism as a cover to attack Jewish institutions and Jewish people. Do you see what I'm getting at? Do you see my line of reasoning? Because it's always baffled me that every time the Israelis launched an attack on some nation or some country or some people, the first people on the receiving end were synagogues, Jewish schools, Jews in public. And I could never understand it, because all the while we're being told the Zionist Israeli state, but the attacks seem to be affected against Jews. So I'm trying to understand how with one breath you're saying to me Zionism and Judaism are two separate entities, but with the second breath you're saying to me that it's okay that Jews are being killed because it's an attack against Zionism. I just it baffles me. I'll tell you something. The day anti-Semitism becomes a norm in society is the day we all need to sit down and worry. I've grown up in apartheid South Africa. I've grown up as a minority. I can tell you firsthand what it feels like. As an Indian with our roots in India, we know what we've faced from the waves of persecution that befell our people over the last 500-600 years. I'm telling you something right now. The Jews are only the beginning. When you tolerate attacks against the Jewish community, when you tolerate anti-Semitic attacks, you open the door for attacks on other ethnicities, other minorities. Because when all is said and done with the Jews, the next minority comes into line. Just look at what the Nazis did. The Nazis massacred the Jews during the Holocaust, but they also turned their attention to the Roma. They also turned their attention to the disabled. They also turned their attention to the homosexuals and the lesbian community. So I'm saying to you, think very carefully about what is going on, because the day you embrace anti-Semitism, that is the day all hope for humanity is lost. It doesn't end there. You open a Pandora's box, and putting the lid on that box is nearly impossible. History will bear me out on this. The Jews have been persecuted for thousands of years. That lid has still not been shut. And we've seen a resurgence now. We need to stop tolerating this madness and this insanity. If you're not happy with the state of Israel, deal with the state of Israel. Deal with Israeli military targets. Deal with the Israeli politicians. But when you turn that anger against the Jewish community, that should be ground zero for unacceptable. That is where the public should unite and come out in condemnation of these attacks. But our inability by our political leaders, by our social leaders, by our community leaders, by just about anybody in society to say that these attacks are barbaric and wrong and do something about it, not just pay lip service to it, is shocking, is sad. So I want to thank you for spending time with us. We look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Please remember to like, share and subscribe, as it helps our channel to grow and it helps us with the algorithm.